Hi, this is Kent Vaughn with Blaze Performance Solutions. Today, as I think about leadership, I'm reminded of an experience I had with a mentor, a coach for me many years ago. I was going to work for a company, Franklin Covey, as a consultant, traveling all over the country teaching seminars. And my mentor was a guy named Jerry Ahl. Jerry Ahl had been with the company almost from the beginning and was truly a gifted instructor and teacher, still is a gifted instructor and teacher, and a gifted coach. And he used to say to me, there's lots of ways to be right. I was trying to imitate what he was doing. I was trying to imitate what the founders were doing. And he said, that's great, but you got to find your own way. And there are lots of ways to be right. There isn't just one way to do this well. What great advice that was. There's lots of ways to be right. I have to admit that sometimes I maybe often get focused on, my way is the right way. Last Christmas time, one of my sons was visiting home from college, and he and I were out doing something one day, and we had planned to cook out that night and make homemade onion rings. And we got home, my wife had already made all of the homemade onion rings, and I just had to cook out, and then we warmed up the onion rings, and they were fantastic. And I thanked her, because making homemade onion rings is really quite a mess. It's a lot of work. And we were talking about it later that night. I said, hey, thanks, honey, they were great. You did such a great job. And she said, oh, I was happy to do it. And she said, well, quite frankly, I kind of like doing it on my own, because if you were here, you'd kind of kept telling me what to do. And I was a little bit heartsick that a woman I adore and love, and I've been married to for well over 30 years, thought sometimes my husband's a little too do it my way, maybe all the time. So I'd ask you to think about, as you are working with your team, are you thinking about that there are lots of ways to be right? That just because you've done it longer, or you've been there longer, you've got the only way or the only ideas? We talked in another video about this quote by Alvin Toffler, that the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write. They will be those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. And today, with all of the wonderful millennials in the workplace and all the people that are making job career changes and shifts, they are bringing great ideas from other organizations, from other jobs, from other backgrounds, and maybe it's just a youthful perspective. And isn't it great to have that? I'm not saying you can do all of those things all the time, but it's amazing what can happen when we're looking for with this view of there's lots of ways to be right. And who knows, that might be the next best idea. Think about your business. Think about your industry. Is it any different today than it was 10 years ago? Than it was 5 years ago? Than maybe even a year ago? Yeah, I bet it is. In fact, I'd be willing to bet that the business you are in today doesn't look really in many ways anything like what it looked like 10 years ago. Dramatically different. Now, as I think about this, I think about two very different examples from the sporting world, the sporting community. I don't want to overuse those kinds of illustrations, but many years ago at the end of the NBA season, I heard an announcer say, it's a shame, at the beginning of the season, we thought the Lakers would win it all. They were the de facto champions. They had the best starting five in the league, and they didn't finish anywhere near the top. And the guy said, you know why? It's because they were never a team. It was five multi-bazillionaires competing against each other as much as they were competing against the other team. I thought, isn't that sad that they had all this potential, all this ability? They should have won the whole thing, and they didn't because they forgot that we're a team. And there were lots of ways to be right, not just one, me leading the charge every time. Now compare and contrast that to the 1984 Super Bowl when the Chicago Bears were behind at the half in the snow. The starting quarterback, Jim McMahon, had gotten hurt a game or two before and wasn't playing. And he'd been the reason in many ways that they had gotten where they were. Oh, they had some great players, tremendous players on the team, but they recognized Jim McMahon really as their leader, certainly on the offense. And at the halftime, Jim got permission to come in. I don't know what happened exactly, but he came into the game. And it was interesting, as the announcer said, it is as if the offensive line is standing a little taller as their leader walks out onto the field. And they ended up winning the game. Now, if you read about what he did that year, Jim McMahon, it is said, fed the offensive line every week. Sometimes in his home, sometimes at the restaurants, but he said, hey, I can't do this without you. We are a team. There are lots of ways to be right, and we need everybody to do their part to be right, It takes a team to win. Now, I don't know of anyone that's not the case. Everyone I can think of, every organization, every job I can imagine requires a team to do it. And team members that are going to do it a little differently. If you're looking for clones, that could be a problem. If you're looking for people that want to bring their best to work every day, look for lots of ways to be right, and you'll be amazed at what you find. And if the people you work for don't think that way, then start doing that with the people you work with, and it'll be amazing what might happen. Hope you have a fantastic day. Again, it's Kent Vaughn with Blaze Performance Solutions.